Hello there. So we are leaving the north and wending our way back down south, and this time after Christmas is a very strong time for inwardness, for reflection, for consideration, looking at the bigger picture. Even it's a reflective time. That's the word I want to stick to. It's a reflective time. So I've been doing a lot of that, and I wanted to speak to you a little bit about recent history, because we had two, I'm going to call them experiments. I'm being a bit loose with that word, but there were two experiments that were conducted on mass of humanity in two countries. One's the UK and one's the USA. So in UK they had something called a referendum on Brexit, and in the USA they had a general election. And in each case, before any campaigning started, the polls that were done showed very clearly what was going to happen. So in the UK, it was an absolute certainty the UK electorate was going to vote to remain in the EU, no question about it. And in America, Trump had no chance whatsoever, because he was regarded to be a maverick, a nutter, people who said all sorts of very unpalatable things that particularly freaked out and disturbed the liberals, things against women and things against all sorts of different people. So the consensus in each case is they didn't have a chance. Brexit, no chance. Trump, no chance. And of course we know perfectly well that's not what happened. So I'll focus a little bit more on the UK, because there's one particular person called Dominic Cummings who made a really powerful choice, and it was to do with his unbending intent. He was going to change the political landscape of the UK, and he was going to get a team together and they were going to do it, and things would never be the same since. And he succeeded completely and utterly and totally, and what was really interesting is how he did it. So at that time the political parties in the UK were very much like old dinosaurs. They were using old methods to convince people to vote for them. He decided to back the Conservatives, only he was backing a minority element of the Conservatives that were for Brexit. And one of the people on that team was, of course, the current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. So what is so interesting about what happened there is he decided to tear up the rule book and find a completely different way to win an election, and it was social media, which was not being used in the UK. So that was it. So his whole methodology was to hype up social media and get people to be influenced in terms of voting in the opposite way from what everyone expected they would do. And what actually happened is the social media led the mainstream media. The mainstream media followed where the social media went. And I remember my mother was absolutely, definitely Remain, no question about it. And this is so significant, she never watched social media at all, but the night before the election, she suddenly changed her mind. She was going to vote Leave. And I remember her telling me that, and I thought, well, this is a really big deal. This shows how things are changing. So we're going to go on the right now towards the M60 right, so stay in this lane is pretty good. And here we have a sign, and that's on the bridge, and it says something which is really significant. When we get close enough to it, I'll show you. Our fear is their power. Our fear is their power. Our fear is their power. So that's like managed to get to the main point of what I want to talk about. Similar thing going on in America. It looked like Trump had no chance. Methods were used, and he romped home with a landslide. So what this was like the proof of the power of the human beings to be influenced by what people call mass hypnosis, and that is very much what is used on the social media particularly, and the mainstream media. It's all mass hypnosis, and they have all sorts of wonderfully clever skills which they use to influence people's minds and cause them to do the very opposite of what it is that they would normally do. And they had such a success with Brexit on this one, and likewise with Trump. But what was really so interesting about the Americans, they then left it another few years and another election, And this time, all the mass hypnosis machinery went into effect, but to do the opposite. And there are admittedly queries and questions about the voting. There is for both of them, to be honest. You always get that. But then the next thing you know, we've got the Liberals, the so-called Democrats, back in power. So I found the whole thing fascinating, and what I could see is in each case it was a dress rehearsal or a dry run for what we're going through right now. Because if you want to make use of really powerful mass hypnosis techniques and you want to do it for something that's very important to you, you want to try it out on something first. So that's my opinion, is that's what they did. They tried out the mass hypnosis technologies in the UK with Brexit, and in America with let's get Trump in and then let's get Trump out, and people follow the script perfectly. And that's the point I'm really making, is we've reached a point now where if the people in power use particular techniques, they are going to get exactly the result that they want. And so that's what we've had ever since March 2020. We've had a situation where a whole series of mandates and measures have been announced and put into effect, and by and large the vast majority of the people comply. So the question is, why do so many people comply? The answer is because they've refined their techniques of mass hypnosis to the point where they can get the vast majority to do whatever they want. And I do remember a well-known doctor, Dr. Vernon, and Dr. Vernon spoke about if the government asked people to start hopping on one leg, they would do it. And I thought, well, I get your point, Guy, but you're probably being a bit ridiculous. But then again, I thought to myself, in these times of reflection, let's think about something about hypnosis we all understand, and that's stage hypnotists. If you think about stage hypnotists, what do? They get someone up on the stage, they use individual hypnosis techniques on that subject, and they get them to do all sorts of things, like they will say a keyword, stay where you are, this is exactly the right lane to be in. So what they would get them to do is they say one keyword, they start singing the national anthem. They get one keyword, they suddenly stand up straight and wave their hands in the air. They get them to do absolutely anything they wanted just by uttering a key word. That's all it takes, one keyword, and you can get your hypnotherapy subject to do anything you like. So when you tie that in with what's going on the bigger picture, you can see how it is really child's play to get your population, the vast majority, to do whatever it is you want. And so that's what we've been witnessing ever since March 2020. So for those people who are surprised, why do people do what it is they're told exactly to the letter? It's because a program is running and it's very successful. We've also seen this with advertising. In fact, I would argue that that's where all the cutting edge has been developed over the years, is for advertising products. We can get people to buy products. The only reason why advertising is used so extensively is because it works, and that's why companies pay vast amounts of money to advertise their car or their burger or whatever it is, because these messages have got a proven track record. So all it goes to show is how so much more susceptible to suggestion we all are than we might like to think. We like to think we're all sovereign human beings with completely independent thought, and it really isn't true. So that's something for you to consider, and it's certainly something I'm considering. And so as we go through these times and we see more and more people blindly obeying whatever it is the latest instruction is, just have some compassion for all these people, because all they're doing is they're simply following the program as it's been outlined to them through mass hypnosis techniques. And indeed, we will see where this all goes. And one of the things I feel very optimistic about is I do notice that there's a minority, which is increasing gradually, that is managing to overthrow these techniques and start to wake up out of the trances into which they've been put. And I do have a very confident sense that things are going to work out great, but that's my understanding of where we're at the moment. Thank you very much.